Welcome, welcome, everybody. It's Amber and Tamara. We're here to help you, therapists who are thinking about moving into Therapreneur land. And one of the themes that we both see coming up a lot is a fear of commitment. And, Tamara and I have talked about this at length. We both have masterminds, and I think we both really know ourselves and know that we need breaks. And so we wanted to talk about how you can invest in your business and move past that fear of commitment by building breaks into even your longer term products like memberships or masterminds. That was off the top of my head summary, and I don't think it was that bad.
I think it was pretty good. I was thinking about what are the ways that we have managed that? Because I have a real fear of commitment. I've done self-study courses, I've done workshops, I've done webinars, I've done a 6-week and 8-week course group program, live rounds, 3-month coaching group, 6-month coaching group, and 12-month coaching group, plus my mastermind, but I end everything. You have a continuous group, don't you? So how do you deal with that fear of commitment when you're creating something that's continuous?
Well, I think that when I started Momentum, the idea in my head was that it was going to be something different than it turned out to be, right? I was thinking, I'm going to start this as a small group just to get it going, but it's going to be scalable. And then, once I scale it up and there are 100 people in it, then I'll also have people come in and, lead it for me sometimes and be able to take a break. Well, then it turned into me falling in love with the group members and falling in love with the group vibe and not wanting to change the vibe by adding new people. So what I have done, which is not the wisest move ever, is if I need a break, I just take it and I don't charge people for that month. So if I'm we're going to be traveling in September, then I'm just not charging y'all for September and we're not meeting. It's not the wisest business move. And it was really kind of I got myself into a predicament because I basically promised 12 months of support and, I need to take a break. So that was my workaround. Well, I think that when I started Momentum, the idea in my head was that it was going to be something different than it turned out to be, right? I was thinking, I'm going to start this as a small group just to get it going, but it's going to be scalable. And then, once I scale it up and there are 100 people in it, then I'll also have people come in and, lead it for me sometimes and be able to take a break. Well, then it turned into me falling in love with the group members and falling in love with the group vibe and not wanting to change the vibe by adding new people. So what I have done, which is not the wisest move ever, is if I need a break, I just take it and I don't charge people for that month. So if I'm we're going to be traveling in September, then I'm just not charging y'all for September and we're not meeting. It's not the wisest business move. And it was really kind of I got myself into a predicament because I basically promised 12 months of support and, I need to take a break. So that was my workaround. What about you?
Yeah, I did exactly the same thing. I actually followed your example last year and I took August off. But what I found was that, first of all, people still wanted to meet. So they still wanted the connection. They found it very difficult to get back into it in September.
Ooh, interesting.
And they didn't have the same momentum. And I also worked that month the most of any other month because I was preparing for my bundle.
Right.
So I could have done 2 calls, but I originally planned, okay, I'm going to take August off like everyone else in France where I live. And so actually, the business kind of has a life of its own. And what I decided this year was, if I need to take a break, and I built this into the contract, if I need to take a break, I will either try to move the call if it's convenient for the majority, or I will hire someone to replace me with the same or different, similar kind of level of experience. And that's what I did recently. I couldn't find another time that we could all do this month, and I was away at a conference. And so I hired someone else, someone who I've done some coaching with, as in she's coached me. And she has completely different experience from me. So podcasting, B2C, lots and lots of like evergreen strategies and like lots of different kinds of sales strategies, different mindset, different approach, to business. And I hired her and I set up some stuff in the background. So I got them to pre-submit questions. I sent them to her. They went to a Zoom call. She recorded it. I've uploaded it, all that kind of stuff. So that there was some sort of form of continuity, but that actually felt better for me than changing the date or canceling it this year.
I really love that idea. I would feel a little afraid, like what if they said things that weren't in alignment with, my values or whatever. But I think that that's a smart strategy. And I like that you built it into the contract. I might need to do something like that. So another thing that you can do, and I'm doing this now with Step by Step, I have committed to, I will do a live Q&A 10 months out of the year. So they're paying for a year of support, and 10 of the months out of that year, I will be there to answer questions. So the way that I set up Momentum doesn't work like that because they're paying per month, right? So it definitely feels like the fee is tied to the showing up that month. Whereas if I'm like, okay, I'm going to charge $1,000 for the year and I'll be there, 10 months out of the year, they're breaking up their pay. It's more like a payment plan, so you're paying every month because it's a payment plan. You're not paying every month because I'm there live to, facilitate or do whatever we happen to do in that offering. So that might also be another way to kind of work it. Yeah, I like the guest if I really trusted the guest.
Yeah. So, I mean, I asked you but you've been traveling, and then I really wanted to and then I was like, I'll pay you. And you were like, no, maybe I'll just do it. And then I was like, no, I have to pay you. And then you were like, no, I'll just do it. It's fun. And then, but anyway, so then I decided, okay, so I don't know if I would have trusted many people. I have asked people to do that with me before and then changed my mind actually at the last minute because I wasn't really sure. But I think also, number one, she doesn't work in the same industry. So I know her perspective is going to be different. Yes. They asked her different questions to me. I was really specific about what they could and could, that she had experience in. And also because I have some experience of her views. So she says quite a lot of the similar things to what I, quite similar perspectives about things like pricing and stuff like that. And strategy and marketing. So I do think you have to have some sort of trust. I've been in other memberships where people just take the week off and they just go I need a break, or I'm sick and I'm sorry I can't make it. And I've seen people respond really well to that. They've been like, you take the time you need. We're definitely getting what we need here. We have this other Voxer group or Facebook or whatever. And I think that's really cool. I think that shows a real cohesiveness. So I don't know if I would have trusted many people. I have asked people to do that with me before and then changed my mind actually at the last minute because I wasn't really sure. But I think also number one, she doesn't work in the same industry. So I know her perspective is going to be different. Yes. They asked her different questions to me. I was really specific about what they could and could, that she had experience in. And also because I have some experience of her views. So she says quite a lot of the similar things to what I, quite similar perspectives about things like pricing and stuff like that. And strategy and marketing. So I do think you have to have some sort of trust. I've been in other memberships where people just take the week off and they just go I need a break, or I'm sick and I'm sorry I can't make it. And I've seen people respond really well to that. They've been like, you take the time you need. We're definitely getting what we need here. We have this other Voxer group or Facebook or whatever. And I think that's really cool. I think that shows a real cohesiveness. And the other thing that I've seen that we've talked about in our potential Tamara,
for sure.
Yeah. in our joint project is saying, well, I'll do this. And then if there's extra, then there's extra. So I'll do 3 calls in the month. rather than committing to 4 or 1 every single week. I'll do 3 calls in the month. You'll get 3 calls from me. And so if I need to move one, or it's not on the same day or something like that, I'm still fulfilling my contract.
Yes.
And so what we've talked about doing is that we would both do like 3 calls each. So we would do 2 together and then 1 each on our own. And then that would mean that there would be 4 available to people, but we would have enough space so that we would have 1 or 2 weeks off, right? Which I think is a really cool way of doing it. So working with someone is also a solution.
Agree. It's interesting to think about both of my coaches who are more expensive have taken holidays or sick time off, and unlike me, don't reschedule it. It's just like you're paying for the support for a year and you're getting more than enough. And so if they need to take a week off, like, it has never ever occurred to me to be like, but I'm paying X for, this amount of time. Why aren't you showing up? And that's kind of curious, because that's really curious, because it's a very high price point. And I think that high price point changes something in your mind, at least for me, of like, I'm paying for that person's brain. I'm paying for their knowledge, not specific time, whereas when I've paid for lower cost things and then the offer has changed or something like that, I've been kind of bitter. Like, well, I'm paying for XYZ and you're not giving it to me. So
what is that about?
Don't know.
I agree. I identify. So what is that about? Like, the more I pay, I don't know. Maybe there's something about, like, because that has happened to me before. I've been in quite a high paying, mastermind or group or something, and then technically something isn't quite fulfilled. But I'm kind of like, but the result that I was looking for, I still got. I still feel supported. There's still infrastructure. I don't need every single aspect of this, because the thing I was looking for, I got.
Yeah. I wonder if, maybe it's that the promise is different. So the promise with, my $17,000 a year mastermind is the intellectual, it's their brains, it's literally me being like, okay, I'm getting this kind of conversion and I need help because it's not high enough, and them giving me ideas, so the amounts, it's different than when I pay for, like, I'm paying for the benefit as opposed to the specific features of the offer. Like, there was something that I bought recently, and it's like a mini course, and then they were going to review something for you, right? And I was like, oh my God, that's a hell of a deal if they're going to review my work. And then they're like, whoops, just kidding, we're not doing the reviews anymore. And I was like, that's the feature that I was paying for,
Right.
It was very different. Over here, I'm paying for the benefit. Over here, I was paying for a feature. And that felt really, really different.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's also interesting. I was sort of thinking, when I've had to take a break and balancing that with what I've committed to. So actually, the way that I do it, I've always thought like committing to 6 months or a year, which is how I run like Pod or my mastermind. How I do that, I've been like, okay, sign up for the year. But actually, that doesn't give me much flexibility for, like, if I need to move house, or if I'm bereaved, or if I'm sick, or if something. And what ends up happening in that situation, I'm talking myself out of my own business model here, but what ends up happening is that if I do need to take a break, I'm not fulfilling my commitment.
Right.
So I'm breaking the promise that I gave people. And yes, of course, you can always adapt and you can always change and you can always give people notice and et cetera, et cetera. But that is quite a lot of pressure to think until the end of the year, I have to maintain this schedule no matter what life brings me.
Right. I agree. And I don't like.
I dislike. So I prefer 6 months actually commitment, or a rolling. Although with rolling, we can talk about memberships another time and churn and things like that. But how much more we have to market for that sort of thing. But just to say that I think that building flexibility in, I think gives us a little bit more freedom and finding solutions before we need them?
So this is making me fall more and more in love with our mastermind structure, because we've thought of so many things that we want to provide, but I think we've been smart in promising this, even though we have all of these ideas. So we'll be able to over deliver and go beyond expectations. But I also like that we're committing to 3 weeks as opposed to 4 or 5. And so there's some flexibility. We have each other as backup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really like that. Something I did in Momentum that it was an accident, but it worked out well, is I committed to 4 weeks and 4 weeks a month. And so then if there's a week where I can't show up or something like that, any month that has a 5th week, I'm able to make that time up. I like the 3 weeks better because there's more room. And what typically people do is they reserve the time for all 4 or 5 weeks of the month, even if you're only committing to the 3, and they just use that as their like get stuff done time. So it's still flexible. If you need to move things around, most people are still going to have that available.
Absolutely. And I love the idea of keeping that in the diary. And what I've introduced in pod is peer-led co-working. So, and they absolutely love it. Like, people turn up like very, very committed to co-working together. They catch up for a few minutes and I go to it sometimes as well. So the other thing is, when you only commit to 2 or 3 calls, you can do another call.
Yes.
You can tack on an extra if there's more questions or you didn't get to a topic, and that's fantastic, but there's also all these other possibilities as well. So I think this is a cool topic for people who are a little bit afraid of like committing in the long term, worried about like managing unpredictability. And so I'm glad that we talked about it today.
Me too. I hope it was helpful, you guys. If you have questions or ideas about how you can offer more flexibility for yourself in the programs while still maintaining your promise to the folks who are participating, drop them in the comments. If you're liking this stuff, hit that subscribe button, the like button. I'd rather you not hit the dislike button, but you do you. But most importantly, hit the notification bell. I only hit the notification bell for 2 YouTubers. So we would feel very, very loved and privileged if we were those YouTubers for you. But don't burden yourselves. All right, friends, we will talk to you soon. Take good care.